Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Search with Candour. I am your host, Jack Chambers-Ward, and this week I am joined by the one and only returning guest, Sarah McDowell from the SEO Mindset podcast. You probably know Sarah if you're aware of any other SEO podcasts, because we collaborate a lot. We do a live podcast before Brighton SEO twice a year, every single time Brighton comes to Brighton, funnily enough, the UK shows, unfortunately not the San Diego shows. Maybe we'll work on that in the future. But that is exactly why Sarah is back on the show, because we are doing a live podcast on the 29th of April in Brighton, and you can check out the link in the show notes and go and check that out. We're going to be talking all about the efficiency paradox and why AI isn't actually making your life easier. And this is a kind of intro and companion piece to the live podcast that Sarah, Tasmin, and I will be doing in Brighton in April. It's a little introduction to how we're using AI in our lives, how we're using it in our work, and how you should be considering using AI and the state of AI usage in search and marketing and all that kind of stuff as well. So without any further ado, please do like and subscribe. Please do all the things, the comments, the reviews, all that lovely stuff. And here is my conversation with Sarah McDowell, all about how to use AI, how we're using AI, and how to use AI sustainably and responsibly. Hello, Sarah. How are you?
Hi, Jack. Do you know what? I am in a good mood because we had a sunny day yesterday in Worcester.
It's a miracle.
It's
a Christmas miracle in March.
I don't know about you, but there is such a thing as SAD, right? Seasonal affected disorder.
Affective disorder, I think, but
Something
yes.
like that. But it definitely, I think when the sun is out, it instantly just lifts your mood. That's what I find anyway.
I'm nowhere near as sun-driven as you are. And my dad has the same thing. My dad always says, like, oh, when it gets cold, I want to go on holiday somewhere warm and want to move away and all that kind of stuff. I quite like the cold. I quite like the snow. I'm happy with all that sort of stuff. I'm not that fussed. I'm too hot typically. Like I'm quite a warm-blooded kind of person where I don't need more sun and heat and stuff. Whereas I always like to kind of cool myself down. I always think of like, you can only take so many layers of clothes off before you're indecent, right? Whereas you can always put more clothes on or put the heating on, wrap yourself in a blanket and all that kind of stuff.
I never thought of it like that, but you're so right. You're so right. And don't get me wrong, I do enjoy all the different seasons for different reasons. Like, I love the different seasons for the different reasons. Poetry,
You being a
eat
poet.
your heart out. But yeah, I don't know. I do enjoy the spring and summer. It's not just the sun. I also like when you start to see like daffodils or
Oh yeah, I do like. I'm less of a winter and summer kind of person. I'm more a spring and autumn kind of person. I like the change. I like the flowers coming out. And I also like the kind of like autumnal kind of color scheme and all the leaves falling off and all that stuff as well. Very, very much so. Much more of a helps with my birthdays in autumn, which kind of helps. So, you know.
Nice.
Anyway, we're not here to talk about the weather, despite us both being British.
Damn it. That's
I know. That
That's
is
all
often
that I've
what
got
we
in
do.
my brain today, Jack.
It's often what we do here in the UK, for better or worse. We have a bit of a reputation about it, apparently. But we are here to talk about AI, LLMs, how we're feeling about it at the moment, you know, coming from both of our perspectives. I know, obviously, you working as a freelance podcast producer and consultant and marketer as well, and then me working agency side, but also doing a lot of podcast stuff and content creation, event planning, and still doing a little bit of SEO work as well. And we'll also get into how we're integrating AI and LLMs into our workflows, maybe even our personal lives as well. I know a lot of people use it in their personal lives. Maybe we'll get into some personal uses outside of the workplace as well, because it's kind of an unavoidable topic, right? It's pretty unavoidable. And I think it's about time. The reason we're doing this crossover is because we're going to talk about AI for our live podcast crossover that we do before Brighton SEO. That's why we're here. We love working with each other, bringing you, me, and Tasman all together to talk about cool things the night before Brighton SEO, which, by the way, folks, is the 29th of April, if you haven't already checked it out. There will be a link in the show notes. You can go and get your tickets. It's an Eventbrite link. And we're going to be talking about how AI isn't actually making your life easier on that live podcast. And it's a thing. Like, there have been studies about this called the efficiency paradox. And we're basically going to get into how a lot of people are using AI in their workplace, which is why this episode ties into this so nicely, and how it's actually causing some complications and complexities in our lives as well, rather than just, everything is faster, everything's more efficient, problem solved, end of the day, hooray kind of thing. It's not as simple as that. And we've covered a lot of different topics. This is our 7th live podcast, I think, isn't it?
It is our 7th, and we're international as well, Jack, don't forget.
Yes, we are, yeah. We've done it in Brighton, we've done it in Barcelona, we've officially international, and we're expanding. We're going into a brand new recording space, amazing new studio with the guys at Ironworks Studios in Brighton, which is, as you so rightly said in our announcement video, Sarah, a couple of minutes, like 5 minutes around the corner from Brighton train station, so it's very easy to get to. We were at Projects The Lanes previously. That was very, very cool. We love those guys, love that venue. But we did sell it out and kind of push the fire regulations a couple of times. So we were like, we literally had people on the waiting list, right?
Did.
Literally people queuing up outside trying to get in. So yeah, we're going to expand. We're going to go to Ironworks Studios in their big studio, Studio A. And again, Paul and the team there have been amazing, really, really useful, really great to work with those guys as well.
Do you know what sold Ironworks to me? So obviously when we were looking for a bigger venue, when we were talking to them, they were like, we can throw in a pink velvet couch and a rainbow rug. And I was like,
there you go.
I'm sold.
I know they're key members of the Brighton Pride team.
Yes.
And it's such an inclusive space. They're a really, really welcoming group. And yeah, like you said, they do a lot of comedy shows there. I know they've done live podcasts and stuff there before. And the ability to basically dress the stage and make it feel different and really transform it. And when we did our venue visit last year, as you said, Paul was like, yeah, we got a pink velvet couch we can bust out for you guys. I'm like, that sounds like a vibe. Let's go.
Deposit was paid there and then.
Exactly. But yeah, like I said, go and check out the Eventbrite link in the show notes down below if you do want to go and check out the live podcast. You're going to be in Brighton. You don't need to be coming to Brighton SEO necessarily. You can just be in Brighton in April. Come and check it out. Tickets are free and all that good stuff.
Even fancy a trip to the seaside, wherever you are. So come on down.
Do a little seaside trip. Go to a live podcast. Fish and chips on a live podcast. What more could you want?
I mean, dreamy.
Exactly. So yeah, like I said, go and check out the link in the show notes and get your free tickets if you're going to be in Brighton for Brighton SEO. In the meantime, Sarah, do you want me to scare you with some AI usage stats? Because they're kind of terrifying.
Do I need to get some popcorn out?
I think you do. Yeah, I think you definitely do. Okay, so I've got a couple of things, a few studies from companies like Statista and things like that. For those of you in digital PR and doing that sort of thing, I'm sure you've used and heard of Statista before. And this is all compiled by Tenet. We are tenet.com. I'll put the links for all the studies and stuff in the show notes as well. 51.7% of professionals use LLMs for research and information gathering. Okay, that's a pretty, more than half of the people interviewed for that study. 47% use it for creative writing tasks, and 45% use it for emails and communication. So this is focusing on workplace, right? This is professionals using LLMs and AI for their general kind of tasks. 37.3% interact with AI chatbots daily, so whether that's personal or professional, and 46% engage several times a week. So that is across all the different options as well. This isn't a, Gemini or ChatGPT specific stuff. But we do also have plenty of ChatGPT stats as well and usage stats. Because I know there's been a lot of reports, and I've covered it on the podcast on Search with Candor a few times already. The number of queries per day and number of daily users and stuff is often reported, and OpenAI loves to talk about big numbers and show it all off and stuff. I know in the end of last year, in December 2025, Sam Altman reported over 1 billion daily queries for ChatGPT. And then I think it was end of February that has increased even more to like 1.3 billion or something absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, it's kind of an unavoidable topic. I think pretty much everyone I talk to, whether that's on the podcasts we do or, listen to you guys talking about stuff, even with, SEO mindset being more kind of focused on wellness and mindset and well-being and all that kind of stuff, often I will get into a lot of technical bits and pieces and things like that on Search with Candor. It's still an unavoidable topic no matter what you end up talking about in this space, right? And I think for me, I kind of have a bit of an up and down of like, I'm exhausted about talking about AI, then I feel like I need to talk about it again, and then I'm exhausted again, and I feel like I need to talk about it again, and I kind of bounce back and forth. How are you feeling about the state of AI in general, LLMs in your, in your sphere, in your profession, friends, family, all that kind of stuff, in your life?
It's really, really interesting, actually, because when I'm talking about AI to friends, family, people in the industry, clients, there still seems to be a split. There are people that are like, I will never use AI. I won't use a tool. Humans are better, and they haven't adapted to it and they're not using it. But then on the other side, there are people who are using it for helping with certain processes or speeding up different things in the workplace, or even in sort of their lifestyle, or so there does seem to be a split between people either really loving it and using it and thinking it's wonderful and it helps them. And there's the other side of people who are like, nope, I'm not going to use it. And I think it just goes to show that whenever there is change, whenever there's something new, there is always time for adoption. Yeah.
Yep.
So there is this adoption curve. So whenever there's something new, you have your early adopters. So you have those people who love new. They love new technology. They love new gadgets. They love new software. They love new tools. So when there's a new toy, I suppose, to have a play around with and try, they do. And it's trial and error. And then you have the people who are later adopters. So they're not as eager as those people that are wanting the new, but they kind of see other people using it. They see news reports, and then they kind of get convinced to using it themselves. Sorry. And then at the other end, you've got those people who are like, oh, I don't like change. I don't want to use it. Like, I want to stay safe. I want to stay where I am. And I'm not saying that there's any right or wrong, like, way of adopting technology or using new things. You've got to, it's what works well for you, and it's what you want to do. Like, there's lots of reasons why you can and should use AI, but then there's lots of arguments why you shouldn't. So I think it's all about personal preference and what you're comfortable with and what you want to do. And just because everyone else is doing something doesn't necessarily mean that you need to as well. So I don't know if that's a bit of an on the fence answer. But yeah, it's just really interesting to see the split.
Yeah, I think there's definitely it's a split, but even people who aren't using it or are against it, we're all still talking about it. Like I visited my parents over the weekend, and they're both nearly 70 now. They're in their late 60s and are very much like not technologically engaged, not particularly, they have learned to order things on Amazon in the last few years, kind of thing. Like I had to literally teach them, like I got their like OAP bus pass and their Amazon like training that I did with them all happened at the same time, basically. So like it's a real thing for me to have that other perspective of, God, I am so in this little tech bubble in my own way, right? Doing things like the Core Updates newsletter. So I'm reporting like SEO and search news every single week doing the podcast and Search with Candor every single week, listening to shows like SEO Mindset and other marketing focused ones, even then it's just inescapable. Like even stats directly from Google, they're over 2 billion users across the world. You have AI overviews, use AI overviews. And I think it's stuff like that. And I've noticed even in other podcasts I listen to, you know, completely unrelated topics, whether it's music or gaming or whatever, it's really funny. Enough people bring up like, God, hasn't Google changed? Oh, that AI thing popped up at the top of Google again. Oh, that drives me crazy. So many people complain about that sort of thing. But then so many of us use, like you said, use it to save time. There is very much pulling in two different directions for me. I think there's an amazing side of it, and some LLM stuff is genuinely groundbreaking, like how it's being used in the medical field, how it's being used for a lot of accessibility stuff as well is incredible. However, there is a huge environmental factor in this.
Yes, 100%.
And I am a very climate conscious, environmentally conscious person, or I try to be at least as much as I can be. And there's also the whole like big tech company thing that I'm not particularly keen on supporting. I don't really want to give money to more billionaires to kind of consolidate and monopolize our lives in that way, you know?
So those two things are very valid, because that is something that I always have in mind, is the impact on the planet and also who you're giving money to, like billionaires getting
and
richer.
data as well.
And your data, yeah. Another area as well is the whole worry around AI and LLMs. MMMs? Did I say M&Ms?
Eminem and Eminem taking over the world.
No, I'm not going to derail. Anyway, there's this whole notion that they can hallucinate as well.
Oh, yeah.
So what was really interesting was on LinkedIn, I saw that there was some companies that were adapting or using AI for reporting on certain numbers, data, visualization, graphs, and it found that they were fabricating these numbers.
Yep.
And it's not just in that side of things, but whenever you're asking opinion about anything about your money, your life sort of thing, you've got to be really careful. Like, I know that people go to ChatGPT and treat it like it's your personal doctor or your personal therapist or your personal counselor, and you've just got to be you've just got to take everything with a pinch of salt that these AIs and LLMs are saying to you. You got to check the sources. You got to check where they're getting this information from. Another thing that came into my brain as well is you have the people who are proactively using AI, so they're intentionally using AI, but there will be people who are using or being exposed to AI when they don't really realize it. So you've already sort of highlighted that with your AI overviews, but I was watching a crime documentary on Netflix, and usually when they want to use a story but the person doesn't want to be identified, they will use a different voice, they will use a different actor, or they'll blur
like
out
the voice changer thing and all. Yeah.
The one that I watched, they had AI. It was an AI generated person.
Like an avatar type thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
and
weird.
it was weird. It was really weird because like at first you're kind of looking at it like, oh, there's something not quite right. There's something quite not human about how this person is moving. And at first I was like, it took me a bit of time. Well, not like, I think it was quite obvious after some time. Sorry, it was quite obvious. What am I trying to say? It didn't take me long to realize that it was AI. Yeah. Because after a few minutes, I was like, oh, what's going on? And in the end, it just felt a bit jarring and a bit weird. And also, it didn't make it obvious. So to me, if you're using AI for that, you should have something somewhere on the screen that clearly labels that this is an AI generated model. and it's there throughout it being used. But this thing just flashed up saying, I can't remember how it worded it, like, but it wasn't as descriptive as I would have liked. And it just kind of flashed on the screen and it wasn't there all the time. So there's that element to it as well, isn't there?
Yeah, I think that disclaimer and disclosure of it all is very interesting. And there's been a big discussion in the music industry at the moment of people like, first of all, entirely AI generated artists, like getting significant listens on Spotify, and then actual artists and music producers using AI in their processes without telling you. And like, at what point do you have to disclose it, right? Like, as you were saying there, if they only change the person's voice with using an AI thing, like an AI voice changer or something like that, would then still need to disclose that? Or is that different to just pressing, like, I have my mixer here, I'm not going to do it, but it has voice changing features. I could make myself sound really low or really high and like mask my voice and stuff like that as well. That's just audio processing. Is it the fact that it's an LLM, does that mean it needs to be disclosed if it's essentially doing the same thing? Like, all calls are recorded for monitoring and training purposes is a thing you hear all the time when you call a company or whatever, right? Most of them, turns out, I was speaking to somebody who works in like transcription and stuff the other day. Like, yeah, a load of them are like recorded using specific AI tools and chatbots and stuff, LLM stuff to transcribe and then categorize all of the chats. So they can then take that data and see like, oh, on average, most people will say it was a great time or a bad time or whatever. They don't say that. They just keep the calls are monitored for training and recorded for training and monitoring purposes. That same phrase over and over again, right? And for me, I tend to lean, especially for the artistic stuff, when it comes to music and art and writing and all that kind of stuff, I don't need robots to do that stuff. I want humans. I want people playing guitar, playing piano, playing violin, singing into a microphone, whatever it is. I want people putting pen to paper, fingers to keyboards, watercolors to easels, whatever it is, to actually bring that thing. Because I think art and writing and music and all that kind of stuff is such a direct expression of you as a person.
Exactly. I mean, I just had a thought. We could have, instead of like showing up, so this is actually Sarah and actually Jack. Yeah.
Hello.
We are not AI generated.
Not yet.
Not yet. But what we could have done is we could have used AI to create this episode for us. So we could have given it a prompt. We could have even given it flavors of our voice, couldn't we? Because there's lots of recordings of us both speaking. We could say, okay, this is the topic I want you to discuss. These are the different subtopics. And we could have got AI to do it. But I'm with you where there's still... So how I view AI is a tool. It's a tool at the end of the day. Yeah. AI, LLMs, whatever we're calling it. It's a tool to help with research, to help with certain processes. It's a tool that's there as an aid. It's not there to replace humans. It's not there to replace like how we think, how we see things, our angles, our creativity. I don't believe AI should just do the job 100% for humans. It should be there to be used as a tool. And again, not everyone wants to use AI as a tool, and that's absolutely fine. So I'm going to go back to what I said at the start, is it all depends on you, personal preference, what you feel comfortable with, how you want to create stuff, and what tools you want to use at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think that's a key part of it where, like you said, it being a tool is where a lot of people go wrong. But they see it as kind of the entire process rather than part of the process. And I have definitely used it for brainstorming, for, coming up with, I've got one idea, but I kind of need to, I can't quite work out what I'm thinking of. But you know what I mean, right? It's this kind of thing. And I'm looking for these things, or I need to, come up with an idea for a podcast or a video or a whatever, or a post or whatever it is, and I can't quite think of it. I'm like, give me 5 suggestions for a social media post that does this about this topic. Or as you said there, we could, and I have experimented with this, entirely AI creator podcast. So one of the tools I use, Descript, is a transcription tool I mentioned earlier, and it does a bunch of other stuff. They have an AI tools section in their little sidebar that can do things like optimize your audio using AI, which I know Adobe also has as well, and has a cut out all the ums, ers, buts, ands, you knows, likes, pauses, all that kind of stuff, the filler word filter, and a bunch of other stuff like that. It also can create an AI version of your voice as like a voiceover thing. They have a bunch of AI voices where you can choose like happy American male or serious British female and all this kind of stuff, like various different options. But you can also feed it your own voice and create an own AI version of you. And Mark and I did this and experimented with this, and kind of, because obviously there's thousands of hours of me talking on the internet. I can just feed it an episode of Search with Candor or an episode of any of my other podcasts I've done over the last 15 years. And it'll be like, okay, I get your gist, I get your pronouncing, and I get your rough idea of how you talk about all these different topics. And like you said, create an AI Sarah, create an AI Jack. Even what Google has with like Notebook LM, right? The thing where you can give it an article or a PDF or a website or whatever it is, and it will turn it into a podcast. And you get those really cringy American hosts being like, hey, we're talking about SEO this week. Can't wait to talk about the latest SEO updates. And he's like, yeah, that sounds like such a great... They're the classic overenthusiastic LLM stuff. But it's a full conversation. They add ums and ers and buts and pauses and stuff. It's kind of uncanny and weird. And you mentioned earlier, like spotting an AI avatar or that kind of thing. We're back to the uncanny valley, right? They've been talking about this in robotics and artificial intelligence for decades. And to be very clear, to be nerdy and science fictiony about it, this is not artificial intelligence. Like, fundamentally, this is not an intelligence system. These are large language models, and this is like machine learning processes. They are not the same thing. That does not mean they are intelligent or going to take over the world or anything like that. But it is fundamentally changing how we're doing our jobs, whether that's podcasting, content creation, social media, whether that's SEO, marketing, and a bunch of other stuff, right?
Definitely.
And it's a kind of unavoidable topic because so many people are using it, and so many people have that kind of, if you're not using it, you're going to get left behind kind of mentality. And because companies like Google and OpenAI and even Bing, Microsoft using Copilot as well, if we're working in search marketing, you need to be thinking about how LLMs are being used by your potential customers, your clients' potential customers, their users as well. And it's a thing you kind of need to be thinking about. It's still a small percentage. Like the overall search market share thing, everybody was freaking out. I want to say 5 or 6 months ago, it was like, Google has dropped below 90% search market share for the first time in 15 years or something. They went to like 89.7%. It's not that they dropped off the face of the earth. Google is still by far and away the most dominant way people search for things. But it is slowly being adopted. More and more people are using these things as ways to search for products, as ways to, as you said earlier, have conversations like medical stuff as well. And if you're a company that is hoping to be represented in that, you need to be factoring that into your marketing strategy as well. But it's still kind of a big black box, which also doesn't help.
Yes, definitely. And I think what we'll do is we'll take a short break now because, yeah, there is a lot of information and we've discussed quite a lot. And I think we've only just scratched the surface.
Very much so, yeah.
But a lot of food for thought here. And yes, like just to echo what you were saying, whatever marketing, whether it's SEO, email, social, whatever content, the whole strategy, marketing works when you know your customers. and it's about reaching your customers. So if your customers are adapting and using AI LLMs, then that is something that you need to pay attention to. So what I think would be really useful in the second part is sort of discussing, I know we've kind of teased some ways that you can use AI and different tools, but maybe we can give our listeners some practical ways that we can be using AI and also think about it in a sensible way as well. It's Sarah here.
And it's me, Tasmin.
And me, Jack.
Now, we have some pretty exciting news to share with you all.
We do. Who's going to do the honours?
Tasmin, I think you got this one.
So, after 7 successful live podcasts, we're back. That's right. This is the 7th live podcast. Search with Candour and the SEO Mindset podcast are teaming up again to record a podcast in front of a live audience.
It's become a bit of a Brighton SEO tradition, and the title of this live podcast is The Efficiency Paradox: Why AI Doesn't Make Your Life Easier. We'll be exploring why AI isn't actually making our lives easier and discussing what we can do about it.
It's completely free to attend, and what's even more exciting is this time we are going bigger, folks. Now, we very much enjoyed our previous events at the lovely Projects The Lane, but after reaching capacity more than once and having people on that waiting list, we decided that it's time to get a bigger venue with a bigger audience capacity. So this time we're going to be at the very cool Ironworks Studios, which is in the North Lane area, and it's just a 5-minute walk from the main train station.
This is all happening the night before Brighton SEO. Doors open at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, the 29th of April, 2026, with the live podcast itself starting around 7:30 p.m.
Tickets are now up for grabs, so grab yours today. Like we said in the past, we have reached capacity. Tickets have gone and people have ended up on that waiting list. So make sure to tell your friends, colleagues, anyone and everyone, the more the merrier. And you don't have to be attending Brighton SEO to come along to the live event either. If you're a local, fancy the trip, come on down.
So depending where this video is posted, there will be a link somewhere around our faces or down below here. Click on it to get all of the information and secure your place. We are really looking forward to seeing you on the night.
We're back with our second half, and we're going to talk about how we're using AI and LLMs in our work lives, and we're trying to be kind of conscious and responsible with our use of it as well. So I'm going to kick things over to you, Sarah. I know you're working in marketing, you're doing podcast production, I know you've got Lyrebird Studios, you're doing a lot of different things, you're working in a lot of different industries. How are you using, and if you are, I guess, are you and how are you using LLMs and AI in your work life at the moment?
So it's a great question, and I am using AI. And I just want to start by addressing your first point about how we can be responsible with our use and being sustainable or a bit more mindful. So something that I want to kick off by saying is, of course, there's lots of different ways that we can be using AI in certain processes. But one thing that I would urge people to think about is, do you really need AI to do this job for you? Will it actually save you a decent amount of time doing it? Really? Because there is the impact on the environment. There is the impact on the planet, right? So always have that in mind. Is it actually going to save me that much time? Or can I really do this myself? Yeah. So I always have that as a bit of a caveat. And I don't know if you want to say anything before I get into my examples, Jack, on that.
I'm totally there with you, mate. Like trying to be responsible and trying to be sustainable. Like I said, I try to be environmentally conscious as much as I can in my vegetarian lifestyle. I'm aware I'm working in a big tech industry and all that kind of stuff, and a lot of that stuff is unavoidable. But I'm still trying to be as conscious as I can. And I feel like I've very much been hesitant to adopt LLMs and AI in a lot of my work stuff. And I'm sure there are plenty of ways I could be using them to be more productive and faster and things like that. I'll give a shout out to the amazing Chima Meiji, who did a brilliant talk at Women in Tech SEO Fest a couple of weeks ago that I attended. And Chima talked all about how she takes like a webinar or a podcast that she does with Moz, like the Moz Pod or the Moz webinars, and turns that into a blog post and social media post and all this kind of stuff. Things we talk about, as I'm sure you talk about a lot when it comes to the SEO mindset and probably talking with your podcast clients, well, like repurpose your content, make sure it's on all the different platforms and all that kind of stuff. Chima had this really interesting custom GPT workflow that she uses to repurpose all this kind of cool stuff. And I was like, I should probably be doing something like that. That'll save me a lot of time and manual editing this and doing all this stuff. I really don't use it very much in my day-to-day, and I always find it surprising when so many people I talk to are just like, oh, I just did that on ChatGPT. I'm like, oh, I did that manually. Fair enough.
But
I'm a slow adopter.
But the key thing there is you said substantial amount of time. Because there's tasks where it could probably save me about 5 or 10 minutes or or my brain isn't running full capacity, so it'll probably help me somewhat. But I think the key point here is substantial. Yeah. And yes, Chima's workflow would save you substantial amount of times. And some of the ways that I will use AI is how if there's a lot of data that I need to look at, or I don't know, say I'm doing some like topic query research. Maybe I can sometimes I will use ChatGPT. No, I don't use ChatGPT. Actually, I use Claude. I got ChatGPT in my brain. My tool of use is Claude.
Right.
Shout out to all the Claude users out there. But I will use Claude to help me sort of like categorize or get a feeling of like categories or how to group different topics or queries together. Other ways, transcribing podcasts, Descript, that uses AI, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
It does, yep.
So of course we want to be creating transcripts to make our podcast accessible. Of course, transcripts helps search engines and all of that stuff, but it's very important for accessibility reasons because not everyone can listen to audio. Not everyone can listen.
And also, if you're not doing transcripts manually, Spotify does it automatically using AI.
Yeah.
YouTube does captions automatically using AI. Like, even if you're not doing it manually, it's happening, and I prefer to have control over that. I tend to upload the subtitles to YouTube so I can at least control it can spell the word candor correctly, because that drives me absolutely mad. It thinks I work at Canada, the country, for some reason. And as small as a little thing that is, and that's a little nitpick from me, that could be a thing where, somebody who is only using or primarily using the transcript to understand the content of the podcast, that could be a big difference. Tiny little misspellings in people's names or brand names or anything like that can have a significant impact down the road.
And just to say something to clear up any confusion, even if we're saying manually transcribe, because technically speaking, if you were to manually transcribe, that would be you listening to the audio and
I've done that before as well.
Out the script. I mean, respect.
I've been podcasting
Jack.
for 15 years, mate. I've manually transcribed quite a few times before. It is a thankless job. So,
right.
and to give slight context, when I first joined Search with Candor, we actually worked with a company that did do human transcription as well, like manual transcription using actual people. And it's weird that, like, oh, I assume that industry is basically dead now, right? Like, that is just so been replaced by LLMs and AI and stuff. That's obviously me being naive. I don't work in that industry. But I feel like so many people are kind of thinking about that in their workplace. Like, oh, it's going to take my job. It's going to replace me. Like,
But
is it? Does it actually?
But on the transcription point, right? Like, yes, to me, it doesn't make sense now, from an efficiency point of view, to like sit and manually write out a transcript when you're listening to audio. There's a tool to do that, but this is the difference. You wouldn't just get Descript or Otter AI or other transcription tools just to do it and you not to check it and then you upload it, and that's the difference, right? So even if you're getting these tools to transcribe for you time and time again, so I use Descript as well, and Descript will get things wrong. It doesn't hear things right. It's not great with certain accents, dialects, all of that stuff, so you have to check it. When I gave the example of if I've got large sets of data, like let's say topic, keyword research, query research, and I want AI to help me to start categorizing or putting it together, I will double check it. Yeah, I won't just let it do its thing and then use it or give it to a client. Maybe I will use Claude to, and you said this earlier, if you're really stuck on a title for a podcast, you could get Claude to say, hey, give me 10 ideas for a podcast title, and say like it needs to be engaging, it needs to hook people in, it needs to use these sort of words. But again, I'm then looking at what Claude is generating and seeing, okay, what works, what can I use here? Something else that you could use Claude for is if you've got it doing your transcript and you want to create social clips to help promote or help like get people to know about your podcast episode, you could put the transcript in and say, hey Claude, can you suggest interesting timestamps that I could create short video clips? Because again, in my brain, there's not much difference me going through a transcript and AI doing it, but I will double check. Riverside has a cool feature called Magic Clips where it will create these shorter clips for you. Again, I've never just gone and downloaded it and published it, because sometimes, as great as the tool is, it will pick a really random moment of me saying goodbye, or like we have a break halfway through recording and we're just chatting about how it's going, and it will decide to use that as well. So yes, there's lots of ways that we can use and that I have experimented and I do use, but you can't just take it and use it, or take it and give it to a client without that human input first. It's a collaboration. It's a tool. You're using it as a tool to aid you.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of my process as well. Like you mentioned Descript, we've talked about that a couple of times. Things like Riverside, shout out to Riverside. They do some great work with providing podcasting tools and stuff like that. I've also used plenty of other ones like Squadcast and StreamYard and all this other stuff. And I know I use StreamYard mostly for when recording Search with Candor, and it has generate AI clips as a thing. I was like, well, what does that mean? Okay. And you don't even take it into a separate thing. This is still the thing you've recorded the episode in or done your live stream in or whatever. And it will create social friendly vertical video little things. And suddenly, yeah, like you said, pick out that was a controversial thing that Sarah said. Let's highlight that to put it on LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever. And then sometimes it's just absolute rubbish. It will pick up me being like, hello, welcome to the show, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, nobody wants to see that on a social clip. They want to see the guest and the topic and all that kind of thing. And as much as that does save time, it can be really helpful. Like, instead of manually scrubbing through an entire 40-minute, hour-long recording and picking out, oh, there's a good 30-second that the guest said this, or oh, there's a good 60-second that the guest said this, you can hit in Descript, AI tools, create 10 clips of this length and it does it. And you can kind of fiddle around with it, and there's still a human element there. You can put your brand colors in. You can still slightly change the wording and like, oh, please include the previous 5 seconds or the next 10 seconds and all that kind of stuff. That's the main way in terms of like volume of usage and time usage. That is the main way I'm using it, is creating those highlights, things like adding captions to clips I use on social media and stuff like that. So taking the transcription and turning it into a thing that will pop up along the bottom of the video. That's really cool. That's really handy. Again, it's an accessibility thing. Unfortunately, it's a social media engagement-y thing as well that we all kind of have to do these days. And for me, that is by far the most like time usage I have with LLMs and AI tools. Like I said, I think I could probably be using it in a bunch of other stuff. And I've never really used it for any of my actual SEO work. If I'm working with clients and stuff like that, I have never used LLMs or AI to generate anything for a client. Granted, I'm using a bunch of other tools. Insert your favorite rank tracking tool here or keyword exploring tool here. I'm sure they're using plenty of that kind of technology as well. So even if you're not consciously using it, and I feel like I don't use it. I use it less than most people I talk to in our industry, pretty much. Then it often feels like, oh, am I getting left behind? Could I be doing this better? You have the opposite of what we're going to talk about in the live podcast, like the efficiency pressure. I'm like, oh, maybe I should be doing that. Maybe I should be on the cutting edge of things, right?
But this goes back to what I was saying earlier. Just because everyone else is doing something doesn't necessarily mean it's right for you. And also, you've just got to do what's right for your processes, what's right for your clients, what's right for your own work, and experiment, have a go, but just don't be too heavily reliant on it. It still needs human input. It still needs you to check what it's saying is correct. If you're using it to help you research about a certain topic for a client, ask for the sources. And I mean, I do think AI tools are getting better at sourcing different where they're getting their research or their content or whatever that's coming, but just double check. Just don't heavily rely on AI to produce something for you, which then you just publish or you give to a client. If you're using it, double check the output. And then another thing that it does help me with, Jack, and I don't know if you've done this, but sometimes I'm not very good at explaining myself to clients or people that I'm working with, or sometimes I can be a bit wordy. Sometimes I can lose what I'm trying to say to someone. So where I find AI also helpful is writing, whether it's an email to a client or a person I'm working with, or maybe it's some text that I'm using and I feel like it's too wordy, and I need to get it more concise, or I need to make it more, I mean, I'm being wordy right now, aren't I, and explaining it. If only I could get AI right now. But I will give them what I've written and I will say to Claude, hey Claude, can you make sure that this is more concise, like get to the point quicker, cut out the fluff. Or maybe I need to be more assertive in how I'm saying it. Maybe I need to be more this and more that. So that's another interesting thing that I've used it for, which is quite helpful.
Yeah. I know a lot of people, that seems to be one of the most common usages that, again, environmental elements aside and all that kind of thing, blah, 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 like disclaimer. That's the most harmless kind of thing, in my opinion. And I think, funnily enough, that is a really common thing for neurodivergent people to do that. And as an ADHD person myself, I am also incredibly verbose. I like to describe myself as a professional waffler because I'm a podcaster. And and I know clients some of our clients listen to Search with Candour, some of our clients don't. But if you ever get on a monthly reporting call with me, it's basically a little podcast where I talk at you for 20 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever it is. Obviously, there's some back and forth and some questions and stuff. But I often find clients will ask me, oh, have you seen what Bing has been doing now, or what Google has been doing here, or all that kind of stuff. And then suddenly, I'm covering industry news and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, God, this feels like a podcast. Like, yeah, this feels weird.
Why am
and
I
that's
not
part
hitting
of my
record?
thing that, exactly right, that I talked about on our authenticity episode that we did, the live podcast, where I'm like, I'm kind of me all the time. I waffle and I waffle professionally to clients. I can be too verbose in meetings, and I'm trying to do less of that, and trying to be more succinct and clearer and more direct and all that kind of stuff. Assertiveness being a huge thing I'm also trying to work on that you mentioned there as well. And little things like, I am really, really frustrated with this particular thing. I am really annoyed by, what this client has or hasn't done. So I'm going to send them an angry email. But I can't do that because they're my client, so I need to be nice. Hey, insert LLM here. Can you make me not sound so angry, please? Like, how do I say this in a professional way? It's like the translation to professional speak. I don't know if you've seen, like, some people do that on Instagram where they have, like, their partner read, like, hey, you, go F yourself, blah, blah, blah. And they're like this huge angry thing. Like, how would I say that in corporate? It was like, well, you need to rethink and re-strategize your approach to this problem and blah, blah, blah. That kind of thing without the corporateness of it all. But just softening language or, as you said, toughening it up and making it more assertive. For me, as a neurodivergent person, I know a lot of people who are have autism spectrum disorder as well, or on the autistic spectrum, having different ways of communication and understanding. And this is something I've talked about quite a lot. I think I talked about it on not only on Search with Canada, but also on SEO Mindset before. Understanding how your colleagues and your clients communicate and want to be communicated to, like in the method. For example, Mark Williams-Cook, my co-host and our marketing director, is very direct. He's very short, he's very succinct, he's very direct. He does not want me to waffle when I need to report, hey Mark, I've done this thing. He wants, is the thing done or not? Yes. If not, when's it going to be done? Not why, not how, no, sorry, had to take the dog for a walk, sorry, the car's in the garage, blah, blah, blah. When's it going to get done? Is it done yet? Simple as that. Whereas I'm like, hi, I'm so sorry. I had my washing machine, the drain broke the other day. I need to give loads of context. I'm a really high context communicator, aka professional waffler. And to understand that and be like, Mark doesn't need all of that stuff. Give it to him as quick as possible. How do I condense these 15 sentences into like 3? And that has been a huge help for me in not waffling, not wasting people's time, and also being able to communicate more clearly with clients, colleagues, all that kind of stuff as well.
So on the waffling, no, I'm joking.
Speaking of waffling, what's your favourite recipe?
I'm also a fan of I think I'm also a bit of a waffler too. Probably why we work so well together, Jack. But we are at time. Speaking
of waffling.
But I hope that from people listening to this episode, it's kind of got people feeling much more comfortable with AI, and we've kind of given listeners the permission about how they can and how they want to use it, right? And maybe how we can quickly wrap up, Jack, is main takeaway. So we both give a main takeaway, just the one. It's going to be quick, so get that waffling and saying it to me too. But let's end and wrap up with a main takeaway.
Okay, for me it is, think about how you are using AI and the people around you are using AI. Think about the way people are searching from a search perspective, and also how people are integrating that into their workflow. Are there things you could be doing better or worse in your things that you could learn from your colleagues or your friends? Have a conversation about it. Have this similar kind of conversation that Sarah and I are having now. Like, how do you use it?
Yeah.
And maybe there might be some tips in there, or you can recommend something like, oh, I would never have thought of that. That's a really cool idea.
Love it. I would say, and it's going to link so nicely because we're such professionals, Jack, but my links to yours at the end is be curious. Yeah. Whenever there's change, whenever there's a new thing, a new idea, a new concept, a new process, a new software, a new tool, yes, it's overwhelming. Yes, it's scary. Change is scary and overwhelming, and I get it. But take a step back, take a step back, take a breather, and like be curious. Have a play around. There is no right or wrong answers.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
well,
yes.
That wraps us up, right? No more waffling.
No more waffling. But what I would like to remind our listeners is the key details of the live podcast, Jack.
It is on Wednesday, the 29th of April. Doors are at 6 p.m. It's at Ironwork Studios in Brighton. And the live podcast will start around 7:30-ish. Tickets are free. There'll be a link around if you want to go and get your tickets on Eventbrite. You can search for us on there, and it is all about the efficiency paradox and why AI is probably not actually making your life easier, despite what everybody tells us. And yeah, if you're in Brighton, if you're attending Brighton SEO, if you're just in the area in April, if you want, like you said, a nice little trip to the seaside, come and hang out with us. There's going to be, hopefully, 100 to 200 people. Fingers crossed. If we can pack Ironwork Studios.
You said it now. You said it now.
I know, right?
But yes, I'm very excited, Jack. This is a nice little teaser, this conversation. So I'm very excited to talk about it more, and also have Tasmin with us as well, because obviously,
definitely,
Tasmin isn't with us today. So yeah, it'd be good to get her viewpoint on it too. So join us.
Absolutely.
Shall we say goodbye? Take care of ourselves until next time.
See you next time, folks.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. And that wraps up this week's episode. Hopefully you enjoyed my conversation with Sarah as much as I did. And like I said, please do come and join us. If you're going to be at Brighton SEO, if you're going to be in Brighton, just in general, you don't even need to be coming to the conference on the 29th of April. Do come and join us at Ironwork Studios. Hopefully we're going to have a lot of very cool, amazing people joining us. And it's going to be a brilliant topic. We're going to have a lot of fun. And I think a lot of people have described it as kind of the traditional pre-conference option for people going to Brighton SEO. It's become the tradition for a lot of people to make sure that is their pre-conference event. So like I said, if you're around on the 29th of April in Brighton, please do come on down. I'll put links in the show notes for everything. Of course, you can go and follow Sarah, go and check out, follow her on LinkedIn, follow the SEO Mindset. I'll put links to subscribe to their brilliant podcast as well. So go and check them out in the show notes and video description down below. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching and listening this week. Very much hope you enjoyed it. And I'll be back next week with more guests, more topics, and more fantastic conversations. See you then, and thanks again.